Change your beliefs and change your reality. Is this true? Does it actually work? Because everyone says, or the great texts say, sort of reality is an illusion, but illusion is reality. But let's actually analyze this today, because as my channel starts to grow, it is being presented to people who don't agree with me. And they are absolutely entitled to their beliefs. And so let's just analyze this, because once upon a time, it was believed and proven scientifically that no one could run a 4-minute mile until someone did. And now, many people can run a 4-minute mile. Previously, it was believed in the gymnastic world and the world of CrossFit that it was anatomically impossible for a woman to do a muscle up until one amazing woman came along and did a muscle up. And now there are hundreds and thousands of women around the world who can do muscle ups. In the first Gulf War, whether terrible or not, we're not talking about that. We are talking about what science and all the doctors believed was possible and not possible, about how long a human could survive, how many calories they needed, how much water was needed to be able to live, until some SAS soldiers who got stuck in the middle of Iraq managed to get across the Iraq border to safety with far less than what these doctors claimed. Take one amazing person as well. Perhaps you know him, Wim Hof. He went along and did studies in hospitals. There are lots of studies if you research. There are studies of the work I do, people who have gone under MRI machines and EEG machines. And it's proven that something is actually going on with someone who is connected to the energies and sending energy compared to someone who is not. But Wim Hof, he went and he said, okay, or a doctor challenged him saying, what you claim is impossible, come and do it in the hospital. And so he did. And so they injected him with, I think it was the E. coli bacteria. And he managed to get it out of his system within less than an hour. And so they said, oh, well, you're a medical anomaly, this is impossible. So he turned around and said, okay, choose. I can't remember how many people, it was like 12 or 20 people. You choose them, whoever you want, I will train them, they will come back, and they will be able to do the same thing. And guess what? That's exactly what happened. There's video proof, it's on YouTube. And this reminds me of two stories. There was a thief, and he entered a temple. And he saw there were lots of riches, and so he went to steal them and put them in his bag. But the priest saw him, and he said, look, you can't steal those, you have to return them. However, you can do this and I won't report you. But as this thief was there, he stood there thinking, but where did the priest appear from? I was observing all the doors, where did he come from? Where did he come out of? He wasn't in the room, I checked, it was clear. And he asked the priest, so how did you catch me? Because you didn't come through a door. Were you hiding? He said, no, I was not hiding. So where did you come from? He said, well, I walked through the wall. And with this, the thief was like, what do you mean you walked through the wall? That's impossible. Said, but if that's true, wow, wouldn't that be great for my job? I could walk through walls and go and steal things. So he turned to the priest and said, "Okay, you caught me, granted. Could I be so bold as to ask you to teach me how to walk through walls?" And so the priest replied, "Of course I can, as long as you do everything I say, for as long as I tell you to do it." And the thief was like, "Yeah, it might take a while, but so what? I'm going to do it." So they made an agreement. He came back the next day to start learning to walk through walls. And the priest gave him a broom. Said, "Okay, clean the temple." "What? You promised to do everything I told you to do, so clean the temple." So, "Okay, well, if that's what I have to do, that's what I'll do." And he cleaned the temple. And this happened day in, day out. And the priest wasn't teaching him to walk through walls. So after a couple of weeks, he went to the priest and said, "Look, you promised me you would teach me to walk through walls." "Yes," replied the priest. "You promised to do everything I told you to do, and you will eventually walk through walls." And so on it continued. Days turned into weeks, weeks turned into months, months turned into years. Until the thief one day was cleaning, and he was so busy with what he was doing, he went to throw the rubbish away and walked through a wall without realizing. Now there's another story, and this is one that hits home to many people and many people have problems with. There was a village. It was in the New Americas, and these people had a monster attacking the village. And this monster was in a field. It was in a pumpkin field. And so they didn't allow any of the people from the town or any visitors to go near that field because there was a monster in the village. And of course, word spread that there was a monster in the village. And so one man said, "Okay, I'm going to go and kill the monster for them." So he traveled to the village and said, "I hear you have a monster. I'm here to get rid of the monster for you." So the villagers were so happy that this person had arrived and said, "We're a poor village. We can't afford to pay you anything." "That's okay. Just give me a feast, and then the next day I will get rid of your monster." So they prepared a feast for him. And the next day he went to the field as promised and saw no monsters. He did find a very deformed, odd-shaped pumpkin. And so he went back to the village and said, "I found no monster. All I found was a very strange pumpkin, but there are no monsters." And the villagers couldn't believe what they heard. "Of course there's a monster there. Don't be silly. It's a monster. We've all experienced it. There's a monster in that field. Get out of our town if you're calling us liars." And they kicked him out of the town. So then, a couple of months later, another person went to the village to get rid of the monster. And he asked the same thing. As they said, they could not pay him, so he said, "Just give me a house to stay in and a feast, and then I will go and take away your monster." So they did, and he did, and he went to the field, and he found the odd-shaped pumpkin, and he saw there were no monsters. And then he went back to the village and said, "Behold, there are no more monsters. I've killed your monsters. It is gone, no more. But whilst I was in the field, there was a giant pumpkin there. So I decided to bring it back, and as you gave me a place to stay and food to eat, I've prepared the pumpkin for you to have a feast with me." And so they went back to the field and they checked and they saw there was no more monster. The monster had gone, hooray! And they ate the pumpkin, and the man was allowed to stay in the house he was living. Belief is a funny thing. To change your belief, to change your reality, your own, is a powerful thing. To try and change the belief of others is a waste of time, for they will always see the monster, for they will never be able to walk through the walls, for if they believe it, they will never be able to walk run a 4-minute mile. They will never be able to do a muscle up. They will need a certain amount of food. Belief is very powerful. And to change your beliefs and be open to the possibilities of other things is yet more powerful. If you have studied and you have knowledge, this is great. The problem lies when you believe you know everything and you know better than everyone else. That what you have studied must be more than what anybody else has studied. And therefore you are right. And we see this every day on social media. All the hate going around and name calling and people hiding behind social media. To these people, all one can do is smile, be pleasant. Okay, you can call them on the things they missay, but don't bother to try and change their beliefs. Because to change someone else's beliefs, or to attempt to, when they are not ready, will do nothing except make them believe their biases and beliefs all the more. And it is only one can hope that one day these people will eventually see the errors of their ways. Yet, to use the names of the ancient Egyptians, the dead will always be dead and the few are living. Because to go through a process of rebirth is not for the many, just for the few. And if you think the Book of the Dead of Egypt is talking about burial and ceremony, understanding that the dead in Egypt, they're not necessarily talking about dead people. And understanding that that is a mistranslation of the title of the book. Change your beliefs. Be open to new ones. And you can change your reality.